Welcome to the Endocrine Matters podcast. This podcast episode is sponsored by Complete Medicine and Hey Healthy. Welcome back to Endocrine Matters. I'm Dr. Arti Thangudu, and today's episode is a little different and honestly one of my favorites I've recorded in a while. I'm smiling as I say this because I just got back from 2 international trips back to back, and my heart is still very full, my body is still figuring out what time zone it lives in, and my brain feels expanded. So today I want to talk about travel, but not travel as in packing cubes or flight hacks. Travel through the lens of health, family, children, connection, and what it actually does to our brains, our nervous systems, and our long-term well-being. Because as physicians, we talk endlessly about sleep, nutrition, exercise, stress management, but we rarely talk about travel as medicine. And after these 2 trips, I don't think we can afford to ignore it anymore. The first trip was to India. This one was deeply personal. I got to reconnect with my family, and even more meaningful, my kids got to meet family members they had never met before. This was their first time in India, and watching that through their eyes was emotional in ways I didn't fully anticipate. They even got to visit my mom's childhood home with her by their side. India is alive. It's loud, crowded, colorful, affectionate, chaotic, beautiful, and dense in a way that's hard to describe unless you've experienced it. For my kids who are used to space, quiet, schedules, and personal bubbles, it was a shock in the best of ways. They were suddenly surrounded by people constantly, everywhere, all the time. And guess what? They loved it. And that sparked some really profound conversations about privacy versus connection, about independence versus interdependence, and how there are real benefits and real challenges to living in a place where no one is ever really alone. As an endocrinologist, and honestly as a human, I couldn't help but notice how connection is built into daily life there. Shared meals, shared childcare. I could leave my kids at home and go to the gym with no issue because there was always someone or 4 someones at home. Shared responsibilities, shared existence. And it made me reflect on how in the US we medicalize stress, anxiety, and loneliness while also living in a culture that structurally isolates people. That disconnect matters for health. We need a village. We say it all the time, yet we don't act as villagers. How is that supposed to work? Now I have 2 little Bollywood fans at home dancing all the time, which is an added perk. Trip 2 was to Vietnam. Just 1 week later, I found myself on a somewhat last-minute trip to Ho Chi Minh City with my 2 girlfriends. Our kids go to school together, and between carpools and text threads, we somehow said, why not? We had 3 whirlwind days, and Vietnam was amazing. We learned about the Vietnam War, and it was heavy. It was actually overwhelming. It forced us to sit with how cruel humans can be to one another and how easily that cruelty becomes normalized. It made us think deeply about how violence happens, how propaganda works, and how important it is to actively choose kindness and humanity. And here's the part that stayed with us the most. Despite that history, we were surrounded by one of the kindest cultures I've ever experienced. The warmth, the gentleness, the generosity, and the food. Honestly, the food alone deserves its own episode. That contrast, deep trauma paired with radical kindness, made us ask, how do societies heal? How do they allow us into their country and treat us with kindness? How do individuals choose compassion? And how do we teach our kids to do better than we have? That, to me, is public health. So naturally, when I got home, I did what many of us do. I went full research mode. I started digging into what the data actually says about travel and health, especially for children and families. Here's what we know. For children, travel is associated with stronger parent-child emotional bonds, psychological growth and resilience, improved social awareness and cultural understanding, cognitive development that moves from concrete thinking toward empathy and abstraction. Kids don't remember landmarks the way adults do. They remember people, feelings, and moments. For adults, the evidence is even stronger. Travel reduces stress and burnout, improves mood and psychological well-being, enhances creativity and cognitive flexibility. Even short trips, 4 or 5 days, can have benefits that last weeks after returning home. As an endocrinologist, I think about cortisol, insulin resistance, sleep, inflammation. Travel likely positively affects all of those through novelty, movement, joy, and nervous system regulation. So if you need motivation to book that flight, just tell yourself this isn't indulgence, this is physiology. This is where I want to pause and share something that honestly felt like a light bulb moment for me. While researching travel and health, I kept coming across this concept, and now I can't stop thinking about it. It's called co-regulation. Co-regulation is the dynamic two-way process through which emotionally connected people, especially parents and children, help regulate each other's emotional, behavioral, and psychological states. In simpler terms, our kids borrow our calm, and sometimes they borrow our chaos too. But it's bi-directional. Kids influence us just as much as we influence them. Now, here's why travel is such a powerful environment for co-regulation. Co-regulation operates through 3 main domains: warm, responsive relationships, structure and guidance in the moment, modeling how to emotionally respond to the world, and during family travel, you're doing all 3 simultaneously. You're navigating unfamiliar places together, trying new foods, managing crowds, delays, jet lag, language barriers, experiencing awe, frustration, excitement, and uncertainty together. In those moments, kids are watching closely, not just what we say, but how we react. When parents model curiosity instead of fear, flexibility instead of rigidity, humor instead of panic, children learn in real time how to regulate themselves. Research shows that when parent-child interactions are flexible, responsive, and mostly neutral or positive, children develop stronger self-regulation skills over time. Travel turns families into mini problem-solving teams. You miss a train, someone doesn't like the food, there's always someone who doesn't like the food. Everyone's tired, plans change, and instead of outsourcing regulation to routines or screens, families regulate together. Kids learn, I can be uncomfortable and still be safe. Big feelings pass. We handle hard things as a team. That's resilience. Now, important caveat, not all co-regulation is positive. When trips are dominated by high emotional intensity and negative reactions, that can strain regulation. But here's the key message I want parents to hear. Repair matters more than perfection. Travel gives us so many opportunities to model apologizing, resetting, calming ourselves down, and trying again. That's still co-regulation, and sometimes the most powerful kind. Co-regulation doesn't stop in childhood either. It continues across the lifespan. In adolescents and adults, shared emotional experiences, especially shared joy, are linked to stronger relationships. In multi-generational travel, emotional states synchronize across parents, kids, and even grandparents. There's also evidence of physiological co-regulation. Heart rate, stress hormones, nervous system patterns syncing during supportive interactions. So when families walk together, explore together, problem solve together, their nervous systems are doing a quiet, stabilizing dance. That's one reason travel is associated with lower stress, better sleep, and improved well-being. Here's the reframe I want to leave you with. Travel isn't about escaping your life. It's about expanding it. You don't necessarily need luxury. You definitely don't need perfection. You don't need Instagram-worthy plans. What you do need is novelty, connection, meaning, perspective, and even small trips count. As physicians, caregivers, and parents, we're taught to postpone joy. I'll rest later. I'll travel when things calm down. But health doesn't wait for perfect timing. So if you've been feeling burnt out, disconnected, or stuck, this is your gentle nudge. Travel if you can. Expose your kids to difference. Expose yourself to kindness. Let yourself be changed. This is the most powerful piece, I think. Letting yourself be changed by your experiences. Because some of the most powerful medicine we have doesn't come in a prescription bottle. It comes with a passport stamp, a shared meal, a long walk in an unfamiliar place, and a lot of smiling. Thank you for being here with me today. I'll see you next time on Endocrine Matters. If you'd like to be our patient, you can find us at essaycomplete.com. If you like this episode, please subscribe to our YouTube channel here, and you can find me on Instagram at Dr. Arti Thangudu. Thanks for your time.